All right, go for it.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Reseller Roundtable, coming to you from the Bat Cave in Texas. This is Brian, aka Texas Treasures.
And I'm Outen, addicted to hustle.
And I'm Scott, Dumpster Diver Dad.
And by the way, you can check out our YouTube channels if you're not already subscribed for other reseller content. And on tonight's episode, we're talking about the power of consistency and specifically how that relates to your business, your reselling business. And of course, this can also relate to other parts of your life. And there's a lot to this topic. Does anybody want to start off the discussion?
Well, I think for me, if you're talking about like the consistency factor, I think for me, sometimes I'm easily complacent, right? So like I'm easily able to get myself in my own head, right? So sometimes the easiest thing for you to do in the day to get going is just to get up and get going. I think having a list of things to do. I know at some point, some of us have certain things we have to do every day, like a process, right? So I think if you know your process every day, maybe writing it down, that's one of the things I need to get better about doing again, because I do better when I write things down. Not looking at my phone on a list, I'll overlook it. I mean, give me a piece of paper, old school, and write it down. And that's one of the things I need to actually get better about. And I think it'll help my business. But just coming back from the break, I noticed that just getting a few extra listings in, being consistent, I was able to immediately start rocking out sales of things that were old and stale that were in the inventory. So I think just consistently uploading your listings and being a consistent process, whether it's how do you do your time in shipping every day, or when do you take time to do your listings, make that as your set time as a normalcy, so you kind of get used to it and it doesn't burn you out. I don't feel like if you set yourself in a pace, I think you might be able to do longer term. So yeah, that's just easy for me, just to be more consistent and maybe making a list first of things you have to get done.
Yeah, I struggle with this all the time. I'm looking at, I do great for a certain amount of period, and then something happens in life. Like this week, we had a rough week with double ear infections and doctor's appointments for getting my daughter's eyes checked. And then also we got a new vehicle, new to us vehicle, but it needed new drums and rotors that the dealership was going to take care of. And then they had the car for 2 days, so we were down to one car. So sourcing was tough this week. So I know Brian will probably talk more about having the draft bank, but it's I started with like 5 listings again today, but it's hard to get back up and get started again, get motivated again. But I did get some sales this week, and that also helped me. So been sourcing some good items. They're just not listed yet, so that hurts. When it's sitting there and you have money sitting there.
Yep.
Death pile, whatever you want to call it. That hurts your business, and that's been hurting mine. So,
well, maybe as one of the little things to kind of, as they say, to get you into it, right? I think getting that first couple sales as you're coming back, I think people forget the power. Like, we always talk about the good, right? And we always talk about how people forget the bad, but how about use that good for a positive for you? How about say, oh man, I made another sale. Let that invigorate you to say, I need to get that next one listed. And maybe somehow your wheel will overpower, say, even after this show, you might go, if something might sell and it's going to trigger you, it might trigger you, Scott. Go, I need to get one more listed real quick.
Right.
Let me just do that real quick. I got 5 minutes. Let me go do that real quick. And it will make you feel better because you already replaced the item that you were already having to ship out. So,
and I'm sourcing great stuff. Like today, I sourced 7 video games, and one was sealed, and it was Mario Brothers, Mario Kart, Mario, all the Marios that the guy had. So I got seven games, and we Sports Resort. So those are going to sell quick, but I still haven't listed them yet. I'm going to list them tonight. But it's great inventory. I sourced a water filter today from the bins, so I paid a couple bucks for it. They're already sold within 4 or 5 hours of listing it. So my sourcing technique, I think, been pretty good. And I know my video games. I know what sells, like ink and stuff like that. But it's not doing me any good if it's sitting here in my death pile, and I have it. And I need to go through it. And I did have a guy reach out to me and looking for vintage stuff, sort of like Brian does with clay, and that'll help get some of that stuff out of there and then working on other projects on the side. But
Oh yeah,
there's it definitely hurts my business, and I can feel it already the first part of the year. So I'm glad this topic came up.
absolutely.
I was talking to like a friend of mine from the group, from text group. His name is Jorge. He's kind of quiet in the group, but like we've messaged back and forth, and we've been talking to each other on the phone for about a week and trying to network. And today he told me like he's struggling with consistency, and he said, some days he rocks and rolls and it's great, but the next day it can just be difficult to get going. And then he showed me his setup, and he's got a lot going on. He's exporting items. He's selling on eBay. He's selling linens. He's selling hard goods. He's selling shoes. He's selling clothes. He's got a lot going on. And just kind of looking at his setup, like I want to work with him on this, but I think from a macro level, the more complex your business model is, the harder it is to be consistent.
Yep.
Whereas for me, it's pretty easy. Well, I mean, it's habits, and we can talk about habits because I think they're a big part of it. But it's easier for the consistency to take place when you're listing the same things day after day. You have one or two photo setups. You're shipping in a couple of different items, and my whole day is kind of like one big habit loop. And in text group, I lead a book club, and we read books that will help us be better resellers in business and in life. And currently we're rereading Atomic Habits. And another book we've read is The One Thing by Gary Keller. And to me, those two books work perfectly. Just kind of like the intro of Atomic Habits. They talk about the British cycling team, and like in the 80s, they were horrible. I think they'd won one Olympic medal in cycling in like the previous 100 years. They were so bad that like elite cycling companies would not allow them to ride on their bicycles because they did so poorly. I mean, they were kind of like the bad news bearers of cycling. And they brought in a new head coach, and he scrapped everything. And he came up with this philosophy of 1% improvements. And anywhere from, getting a better seat, to monitoring, to getting better mattresses for the athletes to sleep on, to painting the concrete white where they train so they could see the lint and be able to sweep it up better, because that caused problems with the tires. All these small little incremental changes that they made over time, within a few years, they became, like, for a 20 or 30-year period, they were like a dominant bicycling team. And it's the idea of consistently seeking improvement and developing habits that you can duplicate without thinking. Like, we talk a lot about this on the morning call, and with Chris, Daily Refinement, and Tech and Sports. And like, for me, my day is almost the same. I wake up, and it's just one big habit loop. What a habit loop is: one habit goes to the next, and before it, your whole day, you just kind of, it flows without having to think about it. Right. So I wake up, I go to my storage units, I pull my inventory that I'm shipping out. I come home, I make coffee. As soon as I hit the brew button on the coffee, this sounds kind of corny, but I then do like 15 minutes of yoga stretching, because like I hurt my back this past summer and it knocked me out of commission for several days. So I didn't ever want that to happen again. And that's a form of habit stacking. Like, you go from one habit to the next. As soon as that's done, my girls, my wife and my daughter, I'm making breakfast, helping them get out the door, cleaning up the kitchen real quick. As soon as they leave, I then come into the bat cave. I then fire the computer's fired up. I open up my eBay tab, and there's certain things I do in a specific order. Like I study sold listings every morning for 10 or 15 minutes. I'm looking at items in my niche that have sold for X amount of dollars. So I'm constantly adding this to my Rolodex for sourcing. As soon as that's done, I create a daily coupon. As soon as that's done, I send offers to likers en masse. As soon as that's done, I send invoices for unpaid items. Then I check messages. Like I don't even think about these things. I just go do 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 do. And at the beginning, I had to really think about it, like what you're saying. I had to write these things down. But if you constantly do the same things, you develop these habits where you don't have to think about it. Around this time, the morning call with Chris comes on. I then take, like currently, I'm taking 7 of my oldest listings that haven't sold. I'm ending them, selling similar, but reworking the titles, making those quality listings. By the way, check out Texas Treasures. We have some videos on making quality listings. And then once I get those 7 new listings up, then I go to shipping. I'm then shipping out my orders that have sold that have to be shipped out for the day. The mailman then comes and picks them up around noontime. Sometimes often I'm finished before that. And as soon as I'm finished before that, then I switch into listing. And there's a system to the listing of photographing 40 to 50 items at a time, upload them to the computer, creating the listings, rinse, repeat. And then my day kind of ends usually around 5 or 5:30 when the girls get home, and then I have my free time. I know that's a lot of rambling, but I think the reason I'm able to do that now, if I need to go sourcing, well, obviously that's going to change. And Scott, you talked about the draft bank, and we could talk about that, but I've been talking a long time. But the draft bank is there on days that I need to break my normal routine, which this is 90% of the time, and go out and source and do something different. But simplifying and doing the same thing makes it easier. But like contrasting that to my friend George, Jorge, who has many different niches and many different things he has to do. And I'm going to talk to him about this, but that's the key. It's hard to be consistent when your day is different every day.
Well, I think one thing I was going to ask both of y'all guys, and I'll even ask myself the question in posing it, but you have your routine, but as someone who, like for me, again, writing it down, it has always just been a thing where if you could, maybe some people are like this, where if you write it down with a little check mark beside it, right, you feel that sense of accomplishment. You know, it used to be when you teach your kids and stuff growing up, even some people who are learning to be responsible, that get up, right? Did you put your feet on the floor today? Or did you lay in bed all day? Get up, check it off. Did you make your bed? Check it off. Like the old school teachings that we used to have when I was younger, kind of taking place of, I used to have a little board, and I would write that stuff down. Did I do it? You know, and it was just more of a reminder checklist. Not that I really needed it, but it became more of a reward system. When you see that you did something and it's tangible, not just in your mind, when you see that you wrote it down, I think that's the part of it. Eventually it becomes second nature, like you are. But for someone who needs to see that, like me, you know, like I actually want to put up a reward board at the end. Like, hey, if I can do this consistently and without anything, maybe treat yourself out to like have a junk day or something, like have like a junk meal, you know, do something for you to keep healthy habits. And whatever that is. But for me, I just would love to find a way, because now that I know certain categories that I'm going to be niching down into, I mean, it's going to make it really fun when I'm selling on Whatnot. When I go out like this weekend, you know, Scott just had, and I'll go ahead and burst that one. Scott just had his first Whatnot auction and did amazing, you know, for his first time out, gotten, you know, good community started. And I think with that is more of the consistency, the same topic. You can't grow on these platforms unless you're being consistent. The same way with like eBay, with Brian talking about getting the return customer. If you're not listing the new quality stuff that these people want to buy, how are you going to be consistent in sales if you're not consistently listing good product? And then we have to think about the quality of what we're sourcing. So I think if you can niche down, like we were all talking about, like Brian's doing, you know, a lot of jeans, and he said he wants to source shoes, and he's still niched down, right? But he knows for items to go for, so he doesn't waste his time while sourcing. You know, He's very pinpoint in those areas, and I'm looking forward to it because I got my 3 or 4. I have wrote them down. I can't wait. It's going to be action figures, and then Funko Pops is completely separate because action figures is a completely different category. Because Funkos, believe it or not, go into collectibles. So I'm looking at it as a way to just experience a few categories and be consistent in each of them. So like whether it's every week I hold an auction, one week it'll be hats, the next week it'll be Funkos, the next week it'll be action figures. And if I want a 4th one, I can do it and I can hold a single month auction, and it gives you more time to source and you're consistent. So just different ways of looking at the perspective of being consistent.
And can I want to talk about the checking things off. I do think writing a schedule down is a good thing in general, but I think with checklist, you have to be careful. Because another book we've read, it's the one thing. It's Pareto's law of 80-20, where 80% of your results come from 20% of your activity. And then within the one thing by Gary Keller, you actually even narrow that 80-20 down to you really have one thing that produces 90% plus of the results. And if you have a big checklist of a whole bunch of things to do, if you're not focusing on the one thing that has the biggest results, like for me, it's listing. Like if you don't get it listed, it's not going to sell. If I have maybe my thing is, want to clean this corner of the garage or reorganize the shelves, or I'm going to go sweep some leaves when I should be working. If I don't focus on that most important thing first, then that checklist can be very dangerous because you feel like you're getting stuff done, but maybe you're getting things that really don't move the needle at all.
Well,
Save
I'm
that
not saying,
stuff.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you are, but I'm just
No.
saying in general that I've seen that happen with people. So just be careful and save the stuff that's not as important until you've checked off those big things first.
Right. So I guess let me go kind of a little deeper into that. Right. So I'm not saying, hey, I've got 30,000 things I've got to get done today. Right. Like I'll take your process in the morning. Right. You don't list first thing when you get up. Like you just said, listing is your number one thing that makes you sales. But you have a certain time that you do it. And I feel like it is important to, maybe a schedule, a checklist, however you want to see that category. But in your mind, you're getting up, taking care of your family first. You're doing the things to get your kids out the door. Those are things that some people need help with just as much. If you look at it in terms of a business, you have perfected it in your mind of, hey, I've got to do this, 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 and this. And by the time you get to the listing part, there's nothing else that should be interfering within the most crucial time. So I think it is a two-edged sword. You are right. Making a list can't overwhelm you. It can make you kind of do other things to make you feel that, hey, I'm getting things done when you might not be being beneficial. But I think you have to also be cautious and sit down and go, what is important? What do I have to get done today? And let that be what your list is focused around. So there's 2 different ways to do it. You don't have to have a list, but for me, like I just made it very apparent to myself that I got to get out of the house. I was having truck issues today. Scott knows all about. Like it's going to cost about $3,000 to fix this truck, do some motor issues. And did I let it get me down today? No. I could have come home. I could have sulked. I could have laid in bed. I could have been down and depressed. But because we were even talking about being consistent, I was like, you know what can I do today to be positive, to be consistent? I was like, you know what? Today needs to be a sourcing day. Like I'm looking at it as Fridays and Thursdays are probably 2 days I need to source. I was like, oh, today's Thursday. Let me go out and source. Let me at least get a little bit in. And I literally didn't get back until like an hour before the show. So, I think that's part of it. So
the key for me is doing things that I don't like doing particularly in my business. And so I have to schedule those things in. I think a list does help that out and scheduling those things in. I don't want to be running to the post office at 5 p.m. when the post office closes at 5, trying to get my packages out the door. But sometimes I just hate shipping. It's like you rinse and repeat and you keep on doing it, and not much satisfaction. Where I get satisfaction out of listing, I get satisfaction out of sourcing, I get all these other little wins, as Alternate would put it. And I have to remember those other things like shipping or photographing or whatever that I don't like doing. I need to schedule those in and time those and see how I can shorten those so I'm not spending all day on those couple things. So
yeah, I think if I had like Brian's schedule, like if I did like having that, I think by the time I got down to the time to list, I'd be so happy. Oh man, I got all of my shipping done already. Like
yeah.
I've got so much done. Now I can focus. I feel like he might be more invigorated to list because he has been accomplished so much and is ready to start the next day. So I don't know if that helps or it hurts you, or does it stress you out, or are you tired by the time you become a listing?
So a couple things. Like when I used to take my items to the post office, I would do that later in the day typically. Well, I've done different schedules, but there was a time where I was listing first because it is the most important thing. But then, maybe I was rushing to the post office. But when I switched to postal pickups, by the way, check out Texas Treasures. We have a video on that. When I scheduled postal pickups, that was a game changer because now that saves me an hour of day where I don't have to go to the post office, because by the time you load them up in the bags and like on a Monday, it's bad. I've had up to 100 orders. It's typically 60 or 70, but when you load all that up into the car and then you've got to drive and there's traffic and then, if you have to wait in line, it's even worse. If your post office has one of those carts you can dump them in, but you really should wait in line to get it scanned. And then by the time you get home, it's an hour. An hour is very valuable. Like I've kind of calculated like my time is worth at least $60 an hour during the workday. So I always ask myself, if I'm going to lose time, what is it costing me? Because time not spent listing, obviously shipping and those things have to be done too. But if I'm not listing and if it's not something necessary, I'm wasting time. So scheduling that postal pickup really freed things up. And when I first went full time, and I didn't really like listing. I don't think anyone does at first, or they think they don't. Maybe it's because everybody says listing is so bad. But when you really think about it, I'm taking clothes, I'm taking pictures, I'm measuring, I'm sitting my butt on a chair, and I'm data entering into a computer. And I know that I'm making money because that stuff is going to sell and it's going to make me money. So I should be excited to make listings. And that's where my mindset is now. Like I have a goal, and when I hit it, I'm good. And if I still have time in the day, I'm going to do a little bit more until the girls get home. And then I've learned to shut that down. And I'm consistently trying to be a good husband, a good dad, good friend. And just trying to niche everything in together. So I think consistency is important.
I know me and Alton have to schedule a job in between all that stuff too. So that's take time out of the day too, going and coming back from that. But I do like the postal pickup. It pissed me off yesterday when the postman drove by. I'm like, oh, I should have just had him pick him up and scheduled that, and I didn't. But
see, y'all are lucky. I tried to do a postal pickup when I was starting to have like consistent sales. So when I actually, did the request, they're like, I'm sorry, but postal pickup's not available in your area. I'm like, I live in the country, but come on. Like
you're in the backwoods.
I'm in the backwoods, but I'm literally 3 miles out of town. But because our post office literally has such oddest hours, like I'm surprised this thing can even stay open. Like it makes no sense, like I feel like maybe they need to take a lesson from us of how to be consistent. They'd actually have people show up for work, or maybe use your hours better. Like who takes lunch between 11 a.m. and 12 and they open at 9 and they close at 4?
Oh my.
So for me, it's like I have to prepare my packages at night because I got to take them with me to another post office when I travel. So like I'll load my truck up in the morning with whatever it is. And even though I'm in a different zone per se, I drop them off in Chapel Hill. That's an hour away. They still go where they're going. It don't cost anything different, but sometimes post offices don't like that. So, but I've kind of built a rapport with them so they don't care. So, and again, that's that being consistently saying, hey, how's it going? Being nice to them. There's a lot of ways to be consistent that help you benefit your business. So whether it's consistently having a smiling face so you don't piss people off, because the last thing you want to do is piss your postal people off. That's the last thing, because they're going to, when you turn your back, they're going to throw your package. Do you want your packages thrown? No. So, there's different ways of it. So,
yeah, you want to be best friends with your mail carriers. Like mine, I have a cold Gatorade for them every day. Once a quarter, I have a gift card. Like I just gave him an Outback $50 gift card to get some steak. When he comes around, if my garage door's open, we joke, become friends with him. And the thing with the post office, and everyone's a little different. Like each post office can be different. I know the second string, like my main guy, like he's kind of like at a supervisor level. He trains other mail carriers. And when he's gone, I know the second string. I call him the second string, not derogatory, but like his backup. When she comes in, I'm friendly to her. I'm always, hey, how you doing? I mean, mail carriers get dumped on all the time. So just being nice to them goes far. And every once in a while, if it goes down to third string, that person may not realize that they're supposed to pick up. And I've had that happen where, speaking about consistency, I have an alarm set on my phone at 2:30 p.m. and it's simple: check porch for postal pickup. Because at that point, my postal carrier normally picks up between like 11 to 1, usually 11 to 12. And at 2:30, if he hasn't picked up, there's a problem. That gives me enough time to stop what I'm doing, go to the post office myself, which does cost me an hour, which means I'm probably going to be working later that afternoon. But at least I get my packages scanned, because since I do same day,
you want to be on time.
If I don't get those scanned in, like it can cause a problem for my account.
Right.
So, be consistently nice to your mail carriers too.
Absolutely. It goes a long way. So we've been last week we came back for the first of the year. And since then, I didn't have no sales. So we can kind of just transition a little bit. So what kind of sales have y'all had this week? Is it picking up, or are you noticing a still lull from January or things like that? So I think mine are slowly starting to pick up to be back to normal, but we'll see.
I don't know who in the chat mentioned when you list old things and then something else sells. I think it was Brian that said you listed something and then something else sold that was old. And I did have a couple of those, which was great. And then also I did have some pickups that sold right away. So if you want to share my screen here.
Yeah, let me go ahead and when it pops up here, I'll.
This was a Facebook Marketplace pickup. And hold on. Share screen.
Maybe I'll see it in studio.
Yep, there you
go. Add to stream. There we go.
There you go. And so yeah, these two inks here, these HP laser toners, were from she had a storage unit. I messaged her on Facebook, and she charged me. The whole deal was $90, but for the toner and stuff, she charged me $25, and it came with a calculator and a couple other things in there, some books in there. But I sold one for $47 and then the other one for $95, and it only took a day or two to sell. So that was great. And then this one here, this was a nice, easy sell. I got this one from the Benz the next day on Tuesday, and that sold on Wednesday right away. So I know everybody talks about ink, but that's just more affirmation that ink sells, and I'll be happy to sell it. And also, when I went to the Benz, that had been sitting there for a minute. So somebody, like a bunch of resellers, just passed it right by. So there was definitely, lucky, I guess, in some way. And then also, I knew what to pick up. And so I picked it up for whatever the weight of it was, a couple bucks, and sent it out. And I got 5 other ones that I'm looking to sell this week, hopefully. So
right.
I priced it right. Some of, like the one I sold for $95, those were going on. Everybody had it listed for about $150, $130 free shipping. So I listed $95 with shipping, and then got the sale. So
got you. All right. Let's see here. Let me try to I'll pull mine up real quick. Let me share this to the. So mine, for anyone listening, so I actually picked this up at the bins, not the bins, but I call it the bins because I haven't been to a Goodwill one yet, so in a long time. So this is more of a liquidation place. So it's a treasure hunt liquidator, and this was a Stetson All-American men's fedora hat, and this was one of the lower end hats that I found, but it was a beautiful hat. And so it took an offer. I had it listed at $30. It was one of the lower end ones I had. I had it listed at $30. Someone sent me an offer of $20. I ended up making about $3 on the shipping because it was light enough to go first class. So that was pretty cool. And the other thing that just sold, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, was this Fright Fest new in box Nightmare in a Box 10. Brand new sealed. Sold it for $10. I had 69 cents in it at our Goodwill. So that's a great little thing, and it shipped media mail. So that's great for me. So yep, that's my two. Let's see. Oh, stop screen. So what about you, Brian?
Yeah, hats are good ones. Here I'll share mine.
Yeah,
I would say
they're good.
I would say this week, sales on eBay have been weird. Like last week, let me just show you one stuff.
There it is.
So, like last Thursday and Friday, between those 2 days, I did over 1,300, and I'm like, all right, now we're rocking and rolling, and then it's just like a downward escalator, and I don't know. So I'm down. I was over $3,000 a week for a long time, but I'm at 2,600. So sales are down a little bit. We've talked about this in the group that this may be a tough year for reselling, to be honest, because of the economy, and there's no more stimulus money, and things are kind of tough. So it may not be as last year may have been one of those years that was above normal. So I don't know. We'll see. But as far as my best sell, this actually sold today. This was from the storage unit that Clay and I did. And I got to give Clay, I know he's in the chat. Clay did a lot of work on the storage unit. So I appreciate that, because if I'd have been working in the storage unit more, then I wouldn't be able to get my listings up. But anyway, this came from the storage unit. It's a vintage 80s Harley Davidson thermal shirt with this cool bald eagle. I mean, look at that bad boy.
Yeah,
we all know Harley Davidson is a good brand to pick up. And with that big graphic, you couldn't go wrong. And this is from Conley's in Dallas. Of course, we're in the Dallas area. And there you can see the vintage tag, made in the USA, large, size 42-44. So Harley Davidson is always something good to pick up. I think it shows $62.99. I think I took a best offer of $52 plus shipping. So all in, it sold for about $60, but it was part of a storage unit, so probably not a whole lot into it.
Got you. Well, I mean, it seems like we're still selling completely different things, and it's very a mixed lot. So I think that's a nice thing to see. So I think you can pick all kinds of different niches and and make your sales. So that's always a positive to see that things are still selling across the board.
On a side note, I did pick this shirt up. What do you know? I thought I'd wear this for tonight at the bench, but this is a vintage Nike.
I like that. I was going to ask you about that because I noticed that shirt. I was like, I remember that. Like,
yeah, that's the vintage Nike tee that I picked up the other day. And
did you look at what year that was?
I didn't. It is single stitch. So
I would guess around 93.
I'm thinking a little bit later than that, but yeah, I remember having shirts like this when I was growing up. So
I was just thinking, I guess I was
after high school. So
yeah, I think I was looking at like maybe some of the tees because I know they carried for a long time, but a lot of places stopped doing a single stitch in that mid to late 90s. They stopped it. Yep. So
yeah, but yeah, where would you sell? But yeah, this is going in the personal collection, so I'm gonna keep this.
You don't have nothing into it hardly, so it'd be great.
Yeah, it's probably less than 50 cents because they're so light. You know that these tees are very light by weight, so I like that. And then I picked up a couple extra ones.
Well, talking about the different pickups while we're in that, So I showed y'all in group, but I'll share it with the YouTube, and we'll tell our people about this one. This, I'm big into Funkos and collectibles, but this is a limited edition Splinter Target exclusive art series of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splinter, and paid like $24 for it. It's already going for about $40 to $41. And if you look at the kind of the sliding scale of the way things are listed and being sold, there's no reason that this pop can't get $80+ in the next couple months, because there's a big craze right now of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's all kinds of things going on. Yeah, I said it correctly, the YouTube, Clay. But yeah, I think it's just great to see that if you're willing to invest in some things, like, who knows, you might be wearing a $100 t-shirt, Scott.
Yeah, I might be, but
you don't care. So like,
don't even care about it.
So the same way with that is, I enjoy the Turtles, so that might be a $24 piece, but I sourced enough today to make profit, even if I kept this piece. So sometimes you got to take things for yourself and enjoy the process, you know, and especially if you're going to use them and enjoy it. And this will be going a part of my Whatnot stream for Funko Pops, so be kind of a cool little addition. So, but man, this was a quick and fast little show on it.
It was great.
Yeah.
A lot of information. Hopefully people got stuff out of it. They can reapply in their business. Hopefully they'll think more about their habits.
Absolutely.
In the next week or two. And this is the time to restart, because it's technically the beginning of the year. You know, we're a couple weeks in, but still the beginning of the year. So great time to start habits.
Oh, absolutely.
Can I put in one more plug, since I've already plugged my channel a couple times? on the borderline of being obnoxious. I know a lot of beginner resellers, like, I think, listen to this podcast and check out our YouTube channels. Starting on Fridays on my channel, Texas Treasures, I'm going to be doing a collaborative live show with Vala Milk, also on YouTube, as she's trying to grow her eBay store. And so each week we're going to be looking at an aspect. The big topic is how to take your eBay store from ground level and grow it into a successful eBay store. So if you're interested in get into the nuts and bolts of growing an eBay store, you might want to check that out. And you could also ask questions in the live chat, and I'll do my best to answer those.
And what time was that again?
5 p.m. Central Standard Time.
So he's going to do that show, take about an hour break, and then he's going to come hang out with us for our podcast at normal time. So
no, on Fridays.
On Fridays.
I thought you put it in Thursday. I was about to say, why is he like, he's going to have a busy day on Thursday if he does that.
I may have accidentally, because my schedule's getting packed. So just FYI, like Mondays are very busy days for me with all the shipping. And then Monday mornings, I'm doing a collaborative with Daily Refinement on his channel. He's doing eBay improvement tips, where honestly, it's kind of where I got the idea from. I figured I would try to help some resellers on my channel. And then Monday night, I host a book club call on Tech and Sports channel. And what else? Then there's just so many calls in the group. We have the podcast here. I think just kind of tying all this back to the power of consistency, I think the only way to be able to handle doing a lot of things, and you'd be amazed what you could accomplish, is being consistent and being efficient in developing habits, routines, schedules, however you want to do it, because you can get a lot into your day, but you have to be focused, efficient, and consistent. And then you have a chance to grow your business and to try to help others. And I know you've said this a lot, Alton, that you really enjoy helping others. And I think that's the whole theme behind this podcast.
Absolutely.
So tomorrow's podcast, Val, I know she's been on eBay for a little bit. Is she starting a new store, or how's she gonna do that?
She does have a store. I think she only has 12 items. So she started it, but I think she feels a little bit overwhelmed. Like she kills it on Poshmark.
Right.
And Poshmark is an easier platform to list on. Like I have a Poshmark too. I don't cross-list clothing, but I sell some things there. So I'm familiar with both platforms. And I think she just needs a little guidance, because on my Texas Treasures channel, I've realized, I guess I'm using my thought is I'm trying to use my teacher background, because I taught for like 19 years. because just looking at my small YouTube channel, I'm getting a lot of questions from viewers about things that I'm taking for granted. So I'm realizing that eBay is complicated to a lot of people. So I don't want to take for granted like how to create a listing, how to structure a title. And I think that's kind of what Val is feeling. You know, like you feel comfortable on Poshmark, but eBay has a lot of moving parts. So I want to help her, and through that process, hopefully help other people that may have similar questions.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, Brian.
And Val's always been a great supporter of our podcast, so that's awesome that you're going to help her out.
Absolutely.
She's
I'm
very
looking forward
funny
to that.
too.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun to see. Maybe even, who knows, maybe she'll be able to come in as a guest here in a while and tell us how she's doing. And because I think that's important as we grow, we need to see people take the step, the leap of faith, and see with consistency, like what this whole episode's about, see what it lands you in 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, like a checkup. Say, hey, what are you compared to now? What have you done differently? And that'd be a good thing for everybody to learn. So I think that's awesome.
And one last thing. I don't think we touched on this topic, or maybe we talked about it in the back channel. Like, and I don't want to get into your business, Alton, but like in general, you said you had a rough day, but yet you were still consistent and got some things done.
Right.
I think that's really important because not every day is going to be a smooth day, and even for this podcast, like we've had ups and downs. We're not the same podcast we are when we started. Like we've been through some things, but when things get tough, like what you were saying, Alton, you have the ability to quit, to give up, and say, hey, it just didn't work out. This happened. I guess we're done. Or you could say, hey, these bad things happened, but you know what? We're going to still keep on trucking. We're going to put in the effort, and we're going to be consistent and keep growing. So
Right.
I think that's an important way to think about things.
I'm gonna leave it with a quote that could be, if you look at it the wrong way, it could probably be misinterpreted to be maybe detrimental to you, right? Or it might not be as good a positive. But there was an old saying: 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. So if you had the option, like today, most of my day was shot. I could have chose to do 0 and go home, but I was able to get half of what I needed done. That's better than me sitting on my butt all day doing absolutely nothing. Because just think about how bad I would feel tomorrow knowing I didn't get nothing done today. I'm already behind. At least I'm not so far behind that I can't recover. So I think that's the mental part of it too. Like Clay said, it comes first. You do what you got to do for you. You know, like at the end of the day, if you can't get your listings completely done, and let's say your goal is, maybe Val or Scott or myself have a 5 or 10 a day goal. And let's say that 10 a day goal, oh man, I was only able to get 7 today. Don't beat yourself up. Know that you put your best effort in. Maybe tomorrow, now that you know you're not far behind, maybe you squeeze out an extra one for the next few days, get 11 in, make that up in the long run, but don't let it tear you down. And I think that's the big thing too, is it'll keep us from getting burned out, because I feel like stress will burn you out as a reseller faster than anything. So I'm looking forward to just seeing how we all grow for the rest of the year, because there's going to be a lot of stressors, because we're all pushing pretty well to make 2022 great. And there's going to be a lot of adversity going forward. I just know it, because you got to expect it to happen. So when it doesn't, you're happy and surprised. So I'm just going to say that we're going to have an awesome 2022, but it's going to take a lot of hard work and focus, consistency, and everything along the line. So,
and I'm also excited to see where this podcast goes in the next year. Like Brian was saying, we've gone through some changes in the past, and we revamped and started a new YouTube channel so we can have the podcast on there. So hopefully you guys find us, but I'm excited to see what this podcast becomes the next year. So
absolutely, that's going to be great. So, well, guys, I think that wraps it up for this episode. It's been a great one. Consistency. So we'll be consistent as possible. So we will see everybody on next Thursday at the same time, 8 p.m. If you happen to miss this or are listening to it on Spotify, iTunes, and other place you get your podcast, we're happy to hear from you. And I think Brian's going to say one more thing heading out.
Yeah, I was just thinking that I was talking to Scott behind the scenes earlier. I just realized that you can rate on Spotify. I gave Reseller Roundtable a 5-star rating.
Yep.
So please rate us on Spotify. 5 stars if you enjoy it.
So actually, believe it or not, that was a new metric. And once you get a certain amount of views and get consistent, they start allowing people to start. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I totally forgot, because that just showed up within the last 7 days as an option. So it's been great to see it grow. So it's doing good. So, all right, fellas. Well, until next week, we will see everybody next week at 8 p.m. on Thursday.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. See y'all.
Bye.